Hi friends, hi and welcome to the Mundane Midlife podcast. It is time for the February podcast. Today's today's the 1st of February, and I am hanging out with you in my sunroom. If you hear snoring, I have one of my production assistants on the ottoman in front of me. I'm angled this way intentionally because we got snow yesterday, which was lovely, as it's not something that we get. And as someone who was born in Maryland, I have memories of snow when we lived in Minnesota, because my mom and dad lived in the St. Paul area of Minnesota briefly. It's where my younger brother was born. And I do have vivid memories of being pulled in a sleigh, but I don't really have tons of memories of snow here. So I'm going to turn this a little bit intentional so that you can see the fabulousness. Do not mind all the bird feeders. I won't apologize for that. This sunroom really is nothing more than a kitty cat playpen, and I take their entertainment very seriously, and I actually use that as the justification to spend a ridiculous amount of money at Wild Birds Unlimited. Do you have Wild Birds Unlimited where you are? It is this bird seed store, and it has really leveled up my my bird viewing, because working on my badge for midlife, I am absolutely someone who tends to plants, which you see African violets back there, and also watches birds. So I am wearing today, if you have been watching for a while, you will recognize one of my favorite knit hat. This is the barley pattern by Tin Can Knits. If you have a beverage you might want to drink, I don't know that I'm going to say it a whole lot. This mug is one of my favorite purchases from Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival, which is a fiber festival that is in Fletcher, North Carolina, very near Asheville. It happens at the end of October. And this is by an artist who has a shop called Both Hands on the Wheel, and it is my favorite. I have slowly worked on making sure that my coffee mugs are handmade, and this one brings me joy. So I'm drinking coffee this morning from Dynamite Roasting Company, which is a coffee roaster in Black Mountain or Swanoa, North Carolina. Amazing, a wonderful coffee. I do think that I'm pretty reasonable. There are things that I will treat myself on, and good coffee is one of those. And I have a subscription to Black Mountain Roastery, or Dynamite Roasting Company, excuse me, not Black Mountain Roastery, Dynamite Roasting Company, and it's been worth it. They send me 2 pounds of coffee every month. Makes my little heart happy. I do have a finished object that I want to talk to you guys about. It has been so lovely and wonderful, and it brought me so much joy that I haven't even woven in the ends. So let me tell you guys about this. I think this was close to being done, and this is up there with the experience that I had with another one of Shana Line's patterns. So if you have been watching, you may remember that towards the end of last year, I finished the Core Memory cowl, which was a cowl that I used hand spun on, and DK weight from Lolo did it. This is all of my hand spun. This is the Tater Tots bandana. It is knit flat, and I knit this out of some Brights Rainbow hand spun, which is, I believe, I have the ball band somewhere. I think it's a merino bamboo silk blend. Did not block it because there was a snowstorm coming, so I finished it. And thankfully, because I kind of messed up the cast on, I'm going to say that I had some help because it created this little loop. And what works really lovely with this loop is that I just run the end of the bandana through it, and I don't have to worry about having a fastener or pinning it or anything. But it's something that makes me so happy. And I know if you are like me, I spin once in a blue moon now. I bought the Knit Spin Farm does a bat vent every Advent season. And this is the second year that I got that. And I really enjoy it. It's just, I have to be kind of in the mind space to spin. And I have not done that. I started the bat vent for this past year, but I do enjoy hand spinning. And when I went through, and I talked about this a little bit last podcast, when I went through and kind of zhuzhed the stash, I have a lot of really beautiful hand spun. So I'm intentionally kind of setting out to find things to make with that hand spun, because it's been so cool to be able to spin the yarn and then create a beautiful project from it. So work has been a little bit busier, so my ability to take yarn and crank machine knitted hats has been somewhat limited, because I treated myself and I leveled up my knitting machine goodness, and I have the Addie King knitting machine. I've also been tinkering with different types of yarn, different weights, just to see how it does. So I did I've had at least 3 failures of figuring out that the Addie King does not like thick, bulky, or even hand spun that is 2-ply bulky. So I have had probably 3 failures where I've taken yarn that I've just been curious about, like, hey, let's see how this is going to work. I've had that happen. But I did manage to. I took some Knitters Brewing Company leftovers in the Indianapolis Colts colorway. She's not a dyer anymore, Wendy. She does a lot of stuff with the Downseller pigskin party knit along, for which I'm an epic fail. I don't think I've submitted any points, and it's not likely that I'm going to, honestly. But I held the Knitters Brewing Company Indianapolis Colts colorway with a ball of the Knit Picks Felici Lighthouse colorway, and this is what it created. So I ran out of yarn, but when I double this up and seam everything, this will be a very nice hat for a little person. And then I also taking my Felici sock yarn from Knit Picks, holding it double, throwing it on the knitting machine does not disappoint. This is the White Russian colorway. So, and the way that this works with the knitting machine, if you've not seen one, is that you knit a tube, and then the magic of making a double layered, double knit hat is that you cinch, I feel like I'm in Clueless, but you cinch the ends and then fold it up. So this will be a very nice, reminds me a little bit of like Easter. So probably sometime today I will seam these. So they will be 2 more. I think at this point, I'm not sure what my total is. I have exceeded, I probably have made at least 10 knit hats, machine knitted hats on my knitting machine, because that, let's be redundant, for the month of January. I'm good with that. I'm going to read towards the end here, I'm going to read an essay that I wrote on my Substack that kind of gives you a snapshot of where things have been for me. And I mentioned carrying around these hats to be able to offer them to people, because it's a pretty tough time right now. I also have been working on the Boxing Day, I think it's scarf. It is a pattern by Jennifer Lassonde, Jen has the Downseller Studio audio podcast that I've listened to for years, and I really enjoy her patterns. So I've been knitting on this, and I want to clarify and do a little bit of a better job. I bought in December of 2024 probably my first Advent, knitting Advent, because for me, I have a lot of yarn, and I thought, okay, I'll just make one. But I decided that I wanted to treat myself. My mom had died in August of that year. I thought it would be something nice. So I was introduced to Buxom Knits through participating through the Downseller Studio podcast. I think she was a sponsor for either the Pigskin Party or Splash Pad, but she's a dyer in Washington State, and she offered really beautiful, it was like a mystery advent, as most of them are, and these are really lovely speckled pastel colors. So I'm going to hold these up so that you can see them, because although I'm not someone who wears tons of pastel, and it may be a little blown out because I know I've got sun and snow in the background, but like really beautiful, happy, like I work on this and I'm like, okay, Easter is coming, which means spring is coming, which means planting season is coming. And for someone who is a gardener, it makes me happy. So this is my progress. I'm also I have some minis that I was gifted a while ago that also may work well with this. So I've been kind of carrying those along and putting them in, but this is the cast on, and if you see little ends sticking out, it's because I'm knitting in my ends as I go along. But this is, and I have my little Christmas stitch marker from Adore Knits. I think when I showed this last, I had just about finished the blue and purple. So now it's purple and yellow, and then this is yellow and pink. Very enjoyable. I just have to be in the mind space to knit it. I also have, I'm waiting for my yarn to arrive. I took advantage of Legacy Knits dyed up red yarn. So I will be casting on a Melt the Ice hat in support for the defunding of DHS and the defunding and prosecution of ICE agents, because crafting is political, and if you are someone who has an issue with that, this is not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. Go with God. See you later. But anybody who knows me and has watched me for a while will know that I am not someone who stays quiet, especially in the face of just the brutality that's been unnecessary at the hands of this administration. And I have to believe that things are getting better, that they will get better. They will get better. But we are in it right now, and if I can knit a hat, I will happily do so. If I can knit a hat that will go to fund the organizations that are protecting people, I will do it. So that is what's been going on. I do have in my mind, I want to go and look at my hand spun and probably cast on another Shana Lines pattern. She's got a couple of really beautiful patterns that would work really well with hand spun that I think she intentionally designed for it to work that way. So I have been looking at that because I want to use the really beautiful things that I've spun and created in my yarn stash. So February is behind us, and I will tell you, as someone who has a birthday in February, there are a couple of things that I learned. So this is the little part that's going to kind of veer into life and woo and intuitive development. So 13 minutes in, if you're here for the knitting, thank you. But as you guys know, and you heard me talk at the beginning of the year, we're rolling into Chinese New Year, which is February the 17th, and that is the year of the fire horse. And that is a year where the fire horse energy is quick, kind of get on board or get drugged behind, and a lot of what has felt like for January. I think there's a meme out there that I saw on Instagram that said, you know, the one thing about January is that she's going to make sure that you feel every single 31 of her days. And I have to tell you, that has been appropriate for me. It's not been a bad month. It's been a heartbreaking month in terms of looking around me politically, what is happening. It's been heartbreaking. But I did have a birthday. And I also learned, and having a psychic reading done the weekend of my birthday, that I'm a Capricorn, but I was born kind of right on the cusp. I was born on the 19th. And the 20th is when Aries starts, and Aries is more air. So I have earth energy, but I also really am more air. So for me, that made a lot of sense because I am very pragmatic and grounded. as a Capricorn. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is learn more about Aries and air signs, because I like stuff like that. I have also been working on like Reiki training, and I'm signed up. I'll go through level 1 of Reiki training here in person with a practitioner later in February, and then in April I will fly to Chicago for a weekend to do angel Reiki training with Julie Jancis, and that will be very wonderful, and I'm excited about that because that's working with the angels and bringing in energy from the angels, which I really like. So what else can I share? I'm tending to my plants, trying to figure out how to take the best care of them. I bought a bromeliad, which is a really beautiful plant, and then I was gifted one for my birthday. I think that's, and I also have been trying to, I got into plants because when my mom was still alive and the family house had to be sold, she had a lot of plants, and I could not throw them away. I gave them away to people that wanted them, but I had like peace lilies and Boston ferns and things. Like peace lilies, for example, are not kitty cat safe, so I have them, but they are up super duper high where the production assistants cannot get to them. But then I also have, like, I'm a sucker for, if I go to Lidl or Aldi and they've got plants, I'm like, okay, the first thing that I do is Google whether or not it's kitty safe. So that's why you'll see like a lot of African violets around me, because Major and Liv, for the most part, leave them alone and they don't mess with them. So, and they're kitty safe. But I think that is it. I am going to also, as I talked about the last time I podcasted, I have been writing on Substack. I started writing in September, and it's been a wonderful outlet for me to be able to talk about kind of everything that I have experienced in my life in ways that is helpful and meaning making for me. And I, as someone who's kind of done a bunch of different things, has a background in being a mental health clinician, what I think I've kind of settled on is that, like, I don't really want to be known as an expert on anything. I want to be able to write and talk about my understanding and how things in my life have impacted me. And if somebody finds my writing helpful, wonderful. If they don't, wonderful. I think for me, I'm really kind of moving into this anchored, deeply grounded, deeply connected version of myself that is not thirsty, that is not provocative, that is mundane, but beautiful and magical and wonderful. So I'm going to read to you the essay that I wrote and published on my birthday, because I think it talks a lot about what I'm hoping to bring more into this podcasting space. So hopefully you will indulge me. If you've read it already, because you have been someone who's been subscribed, thank you. But if not, no worries. All right. This essay is called Less Overcorrection, More Glimmers. Today is my birthday. I wrote most of this entry yesterday because that is my process. Very rarely do I write something and mash the publish button in the same setting. A note on today's essay: there are multiple themes separated by dividers and subheaders. This is how my mind works. And spoiler, they're all interrelated. The pauses and breaks for me feel grounding and intentional, slow and peaceful, but they may annoy you as the reader or listener. You do you, boo. A lot of my piece has been managed lately by taking yarn from my abundant yarn stash, throwing it on a knitting machine, and making hats to be donated. I carry these hats in my car. I give them to students in my jazzercise classes. If I see someone at the grocery store and it's cold out, I offer them a hat. I donate them to the church that my gran went to here in town when she was alive. The world may be a dumpster fire, and a machine knitted hat won't fix it, but it will keep somebody warm. Small steps, some impact. My 48th year was very similar. Small steps, some impact. some big, some small. I got coaching certifications, sold land, closed estates, traveled to masterminds, made new friends, changed jobs, started to understand that the body really does keep the score, and did something about it. I held boundaries, made epic mistakes, and had to do rupture repairs as a result. Showed up better as a wifey, got pummeled by my younger brother's death, and started to understand that breath therapy was simple and painful and effective. As I embrace the more woo side of myself, I've read a lot this weekend about the energy of the new moon and how now is the most potent time to plant seeds of what you'd like to cultivate in the future. I want more peace, not a pony or $1,000,000. I want peace and ease and joy. I've been challenged by my therapist and those who know me best to really start to speak into what I do want instead of proclaiming what I don't want. The truth, I could pen multiple essays on things I don't want. I have a lot of experience navigating shit sandwiches and milkshakes with thumbtacks in them. Who doesn't? It's been more challenging than I'd like to speak into what I do want, to stretch beyond the boundary of just bracing for impact and speaking light into this little life of mine. And in alignment with my word of the year, mindful, the unexpected bonus of that is that I go slower now. I go slower in processing how I'm feeling and how I react to things, and most importantly at work, how quickly I respond to emails. On overcorrections. At the beginning of the year last year, I was told that my job would be changing and I was moved to a new team. I'd like to tell you that I handled it well. I didn't. I spiraled into fear, anxiety, anger about the inequity of things. This was not my first time that I had been exiled to what felt like the island of misfit toys. My body did what it knew to do in the face of an unexpected change. Stop spending money, catastrophize so that I had backup plans in the event that stuff wasn't as dire as I thought it would be, ruminate on the what-ifs, retreat, and then overcorrect. One overcorrection led me to coaching certifications. Another one led me to being convinced that expensive facials would cure my adult acne. Another one led me to trying to intermittently fast again when I knew it was the last thing that I needed. A word on overcorrections. I have a theory that overcorrections are like quicksand or Chinese finger puzzles for people like me. A lot of busyness, a lot of activity, but you end up stuck with limited options and sometimes very tired and chafed and covered in bug bites. Just another distraction, anxiety buffer to manage a hard thing, and a desire to manage an outcome, prevent pain, disappointment, suffering. A desire to stay safe amongst the disappointment of a hard thing. A lot of running because you're not connected to your body. The good thing about this past year is that somewhere in the midst of being an intermittent fasting failure and the owner of expensive facial products, I started to suspect that maybe running/overcorrecting wasn't working for me anymore. On loss. I started to rattle off all the things I did when I was 48 as a badge of honor, falling back into my programming that busyness is better. What I really want to write about is that all those things were just shiny objects of distraction as I navigated most of the full year on the planet without my mother. Walking through the first year of loss and the death of your last surviving parent is hard and beautiful. Hard at family weddings, holidays, with jokes, sunsets, hummingbirds, or the agony of discovering that your younger brother has died. Beautiful in all the same ways that I listed in the sentence prior. The number of times I said to my aunt, "Thank God Susan Ann is not here to see this." The relief of knowing that you won't get phone calls or text messages asking if you can take a call while you brace for the latest update on how your parents' health is failing further or their cognitive abilities are declining. And the agony of wanting to ask her questions that have surfaced just now about family recipes and life. And the relief that you saved the voicemail from her that came in July because you knew that she was leaving soon. The relief that she's no longer suffering, and the agony and envy when you hear people talk about their families because yours has lost almost all of its players. A common theme in my essays, two things can be true at the same time. On the surface, I got a lot of shit done in my 48th year. I looked very busy, and at about the midway point, I started to really grieve the reality that my mom was gone. The punch list of estate tasks were done. Underneath the busyness was grief, tender, present, and waiting. On glimmers. When I did consulting work, I often tell clients not to worry if they miss lessons, that the universe has a way of continuing to offer opportunities for the biggest lessons to be worked over and over again until they were done. Grief has been and is likely one of my biggest lessons. It can't be put in a box, lassoed, ignored, outrun, mashed down, flipped off, abandoned in a parking lot. It can consume you, turn you into a husk, hollow you out, burn you up, and make you question your reality. It can be partnered with as a great teacher, and it can remind you of the important things when you've spent too much time on social media or spent too much money at the candle store. There are glimmers in my grief. As I mentioned in a previous essay, something shifted for me this year, and I began to see grief not as the hulking monster that I had to run from. It has offered a depth to me that I'm not sure would have occurred otherwise. Question: what's the saying about digging deep wells? Answer: dig them. I found grief as a quiet teacher that often just needed to be acknowledged in my daily activities. I stopped running from it and overcorrecting to not feel. I joined a community that offered nervous system resets to give tools when I felt sad, overwhelmed, tired, or throat punchy. I asked for its pronouns the other day, and she told me. I breathe every day, and there she is, my grief. She no longer looks like the ghost of Christmas future from the Muppets Christmas Carol. Most days I find her in my mind, in a field sitting quietly. Some days she shows up as the family Shih Tzu Lumpy, curled in front of the fire in the cabin that I have spirit school in every morning. She just wants to be seen and tended to and held. She is just a part of my heart. And lately, she has been whispering to remind me that light is allowed, even when I'm sad. Dreams are allowed, even if the world is a dumpster fire. Hope is allowed, even if your hope meter is a busted can of biscuits. Here's to 49. Thank you for spending some time with me today.